Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Kelly Mesher-Collins with the Diocese of Des Moines. On today's show, we're visiting with Maggie DeWitte, Executive Director of Pulse Life Advocates, formerly known as Iowans for Life. We'll be visiting with her today about the organization's name change, the recent March for Life in Washington, D.C., the Holy Family Project, and much more. But before we get to today's interview, let's find out what's on the Bishop's mind.
Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning.
February, here we are, well into it.
Thank God.
Finally, Puxatawny Phil, and I've Got You, Babe, quit playing in my head, Groundhog Day, yeah. So we'll be on that. But lots of really graceful moments. So you had Catholic Schools Week and chance to be with the young people at St. Pat's Perry and Shelby County Catholic School and Albert Catholic School. So always a great celebration. Those young people give you so much hope. And obviously the mission that we realize in helping to form them as disciples of Jesus, and they coming into their own, which is ever more beautiful to see. We had the SEEK conference on the first weekend of February at the Iowa Event Center. College university students from around the state converging with the Fellowship of Catholic University students too. And so Bishop Zinkula, Archbishop Jacobs, and myself were privileged to celebrate Mass with the group. And there's just really that whole theme of the kerygma, which is kind of a highfalutin word, but the message of Jesus' ministry, his life, death, and resurrection as good news, and that we continue to live that. And so the privilege of doing that, and the college students in their own way, taking a new step forward in their witness to the faith and kind of being able to reflect that and discover this. So I always think a lot shakes down in the years of college and the 4 years after that. I think that's where people really, kind of get like, what happened, in some ways. So very beautiful as well. Obviously, when we talk with Maggie in a few minutes, we'll think about the March for Life and all that surrounds that. But today, February 11th, the Feast of Our Lady of Lourdes, World Day of Prayer for the Sick. And Pope Francis, the message of World Day for the Sick and all that we want to hold up there, then be merciful even as your Father is merciful. And really kind of talking, to this philosopher's heart, as he quotes Emmanuel Levinas, that pain isolates us in an absolute way. And this isolation gives rise to the need to appeal to the other, to call out to the other, that when we experience frailty and suffering in our own flesh, that this is a result of illness, our hearts can become heavy, fear spreads, uncertainties multiply, and questions about the meaning of what is happening in their lives become all the more urgent. And so he mentions and refers to those who in the solitude of the pandemic, but we're so grateful for the healthcare people who go there and who accompany and are by the bedside. And in our own greater Des Moines community, Dr. Richard Deming is really a noted figure. He's not just very proficient in practicing the art and the science of medicine, but his human presence, and honored now with the Mercy One Cancer Center with his name after Dr. Deming. So he reflects has his own experience in his own family and his mother who died of lung cancer in the early 1970s, where doctors were very aggressive in trying to treat the cancer, but maybe lacking some of the other human facets of all of that. And so his reflections on that, he says, I know that my approach to caring for patients with cancer is part of an attempt to make amends for the care my mom received. I now know that what I have become is in part because of her invisible, steady hand on my back, guiding me to where I am today. And so, I think, yes, his mother, but evermore our mother, the Blessed Mother, and she appeared to Bernadette in Lourdes. Right. But what a marvelous intercession that she offers, and not just in the hour of our death, but any moment we feel that isolation, we feel our vulnerability and frailty, and so she is a mother for us, and we're grateful for the health professionals that help us to believe that God can bring forth good, even as we bear the yoke of suffering. I was privileged also last week to be with the bishops from the country. Every 2 years, the National Catholic Bioethics Center sponsors a bishop's workshop, and it's not just getting into maybe some of the most challenging questions that face our day, in terms of bioethics, but how as shepherds in our relationship with healthcare institutions, whether they are Catholic sponsored or others, how can we collaborate in that holistic health that Dr. Deming does so well.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll visit with Maggie DeWitte, Executive Director of Pulse Life Advocates, formerly known as Iowans for Life. We're going to be talking about the March for Life and more. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
This is Dale Ahlquist with a Chesterton Minute. Psalm 1, verse 1 says, "Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers." What does that mean? Don't hang around with bad people? No. According to G.K. Chesterton, it means something much better than that. He says that there are certain people who, because they are really pure, create a good atmosphere around themselves. They are truly children of light, and the light shines on everything they touch. When a righteous person stakes out a clear position, we recognize that it's something solid and vital and eternal. So it's not that hanging around bad people makes us bad, it's that being righteous can help make the people hanging around us righteous too. Want more than a minute? Chesterton.org.
Welcome back. On today's show, we're visiting with Maggie DeWitte, Executive Director of Pulse Life Advocates, formerly known as Iowans for Life. She's here to tell us about the organization's recent name change, the recent March for Life, the Holy Family Project, and much more.
Maggie, so great to have you. It's just been not very long since we were together at the March for Life, and
I know.
It was a truly inspiring thing for me to experience. It's been over 20 years, actually, and not only represent the Des Moines Diocese, but those great young people. But you've been doing this for how many years?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for about 11 years, and this was my 10th trip, so quite a while, and we were very blessed to have you join us. It meant a lot to all of us to have you there marching with us.
So, and you know, of course, the bishop, you know, the slacker, I took the easy route and met you out there, whereas you did the bus ride, right, which really kind of intensifies the sense of a pilgrimage when you're moving.
It does. I mean, the sacrifice and suffering are words that we use quite often.
Yeah, very intimate company on that bus, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Do the young people sleep most of it, or are they on their devices? No, you're using it as a formative moment for them on the bus.
You know, it really is. I mean, for me, I am a little crazy, I know, but I do enjoy that bus trip because I know I'm crazy, right? But it's such an opportunity to reach these young people, you know, and we pray a lot, and for some, you know, we sing the chaplet, and some of them have never prayed the chaplet before. And so to you know, introduce them to that kind of prayer, and we ask students to come up and lead, and they're always willing to do that, even when they've never, you know, led a prayer before or even prayed the chaplet, and they'll come up and they're willing to do it, and we make it fun too. I do, you know, quiz questions on life issues and, you know, give them prizes. And, of course, we're watching some really great pro-life movies so that they can be more educated about the issue, and then we can talk about it after. Mm-hmm.
Now, and obviously some Catholic devotionals and other things, but not everybody's Catholic on the pilgrimage.
That is correct. Not everybody is, and so it's ecumenical in nature, and we welcome anybody of all faiths or, you know, of no faith. I mean, and you find that at the March as well. It's a group of people with one common mission, the mission of life and standing in the defense of life. But you will see atheists for life, secularists for life, feminists for life. So even those who are of non-religion belief will come to this in defense of life.
Beautiful, and it just was. It was an uplifting moment. The joyful spirit prevailed. This was not, you know, ranting, snarling people in any way. Mm-hmm. These are people that are just imbued with that sense of the joy of being and being God's child. And all that was there. We did converge on Thursday night, thanks to your coordination at St. Matthew's Cathedral. I was privileged to preside and preach at Mass. Father Brian Feller from the Sioux City Diocese joined us, as well as a priest from New Orleans and Florida. So we were very blessed to have that, and I think that really kind of set the tone. Engaging legislators, Marionette Miller-Meeks, and Randy Feenstra, Friday morning and kind of getting the political side. But if there was anybody who spoke to me, and then we'll get into some other issues here, but the one who just, brought tears of joy and amazement was Katie Shaw. Her talk, the 36-year-old woman from Indianapolis with Down syndrome. And people who are listeners who want to go on YouTube and look up Katie Shaw and her talk at the March for Life, it's just, wow, she is a jewel. So, just really, so the whole theme, equality started in the womb, and I think we really carried that forward. Obviously, with a little quickening of the step, with the potential Supreme Court decision in Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health that we look for in June, and the impact that might have, and kind of reversing Roe versus Wade and kicking it back to the states. That might be part of it. Could you just tell us, on that political note, and then we'll get into some other things, what the implications would be for us in Iowa with regard to the constitutional amendment?
Sure. So you're right. If the Dobbs case prevails and Roe is overturned, abortion law goes back to individual states. And so, unfortunately, here in Iowa, we have our work cut out for us. As you may recall, back in 2018, there was a court hearing and a court case, and from that hearing, it was a 72-hour waiting period before you could obtain an abortion, and that got kicked up all the way to the Iowa Supreme Court. They came back on that ruling and said not only was it unconstitutional, but we have a fundamental right to abortion in our Iowa Constitution, which, of course, doesn't exist. They legislated from the bench and created law, which is not their role to do. And unfortunately, what we can do to undo that is a constitutional amendment. And it's a rigorous process. It's a long process. We got one step done last legislative session in that we were able to pass it last legislative session. But how it works here in Iowa, it has to go through another legislative session and then a vote of the people. So we've got one step done and two more big steps to go to get to that point. Otherwise, we could really see, as other states are primed to have no abortion in their state, we could see a lot of out-of-state women coming to Iowa to obtain their abortions.
Which that was pointed out to me that, the Des Moines Register and others noted that there was an increase in the abortion rate in Iowa, but attributed not so much maybe to choices by Iowa women, but others who are coming here and seeing this as a place where they could, terminate the life of their child in the womb and things, and aided and abetted by abortionists and things. So yeah, that's not what I think the good people of Iowa want to have a reputation for.
Right.
And this amendment, which ultimately will come to us as citizens, it's calling for neutrality of the Constitution. It's not even, making a decided, explicit statement that the Constitution, defends, the right of all. It's just saying it's neutral on this question of abortion. Is that correct?
That's right. It will not, as much as I would want it to, it will not outlaw any abortion in our state. It takes the Constitution back to where it was, and then gives us the opportunity to go to our duly elected legislators and have them implement common sense safeguards and regulations regarding abortion in our state for the welfare of women and families. So we finally get to the point where we can make some limitations and some safeguards on the abortion issue, which we can't right now because, when you have a fundamental right, you can't restrict that in any way because it's fundamental. And so we're at a real odd point right now where, we can't even have any restrictions on abortion because we know that will get thrown out because of this fundamental right.
Mm-hmm. So, a very, no pun intended, judicious measure, very, I think, straightforward, not radical in any way. And so we would have that. Let's shift over. That was kind of a ripple here, the Christmas banquet for Iowans for Life, and the whole kind of evolving of your identity and what kind of led to that. And, my colleague here, Kelly Meshard-Collins, she's a member of your board as well. And so that brought some change right there with Kelly's input. But the branding and everything, what happened there?
Yeah, so, we are the longest-standing pro-life organization in Iowa, and we were formed in 1972. So we are nearing 50 years of existence in our state, fighting for life from fertilization to natural death.
So preceding Roe versus Wade. I mean, this was...
Preceding.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
We had just a really forward-thinking group of individuals in Iowa that could see the writing on the wall. And they saw that Roe was coming down the pike. And they started to gather that year before and say, what are we going to do? And so they were really primed for when Roe did come forward. So, yeah, it's we have a long, long history. And as we neared 50 years, the question for me and for our board is always, are we doing what we need to do? What is our impact? How can we make a difference? Are we changing hearts and minds? And that that's a process I go through every year, but particularly coming up with 50 years, really thinking about how we want to move forward the next few years. And so we enlisted the help of a marketing firm in Des Moines, Flying Hippo. And the owner of that organization company, Ryan Parley, is also a board member. And so we met with his team and just talked about, our thoughts. And they said, have you considered rebranding? And, of course, we said, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? We've had this name for 50 years. No way.
We've always done it this way.
Yeah, and we are going to continue to do it this way. So it was a rather painful process, honestly, as change sometimes is. And but they did some research, and that's really what changed it for us. We went through the process of looking at some different names and evaluating that, and they did some focus groups. And one of the top things was there was a lot of confusion out there about our name compared to other life groups, and that's never good when you have an organization as long as ours and people are still confused with, are you that group or are you that group?
And I confess I was one of them when I became bishop. I was trying to make the distinction. So
yes, and you're not alone. And that research kind of bore that out. And we knew that, but then to have the numbers say, yeah, people are clearly confused. And then the other thing is that as we try to reach the younger demographic, when we came to the name Pulse, the younger demographic really embraced that, like 2-to-1 over Iowans for Life. And so it was kind of this thing, not that we don't care about the older demographic, but the younger generation is the future, right? And so we wanted to appeal to them so that they get more involved on this issue. So that was a big thing for us. And when we told those who are in the older demographic that, that they understand that. They know that they are the future, and we do have to appeal to them. So those were two big reasons. And then the other one was by taking Iowa out of the name. Now, not that we're not focusing Iowa, that will always be our primary. But by taking that out, we can go beyond our borders. And the last few years, we've had so much great video content and online presence that we want to be able to share that, all across the country and beyond. And so those were the three big reasons why we said, let's just bite the bullet and let's do this.
Yeah, kind of we think about doctors without borders, kind of witnesses to life, and the borders that previously reigned. So you mentioned, some of these projects and initiatives. One of them is the Holy Family Webinar Project. What's going on there?
Yeah, so, one of the things that Pulse has been about is getting back to the beginning of how we talk about life issues with our young people in particular, and getting back to the basics of things like theology of the body and natural family planning and some of those mindsets, because our young people are just infiltrated with this idea of contraception and having sex without consequences, and you don't have to be married, and all of these kinds of things are just thrown at them, and we need to get back to just those basic things about what God intended for man and woman and what God intended for marriage, and talk about those issues. And so that kind of led to this Holy Family project and having the Holy Family as our model for how we live our life. And so we enlisted the help of Monsignor Frank Chido, and he kind of came up with our tagline as the Holy Family is the sole solution for our wounded world. And each episode...
S-O-U-L or S-O-L-E?
Yeah, S-O-U-L. Yeah, thank you. And just looking at each member of the Holy Family and how they are a model to us. And so we were blessed to have you, Bishop, in our opening segment to talk about Humana Vitae. And so Monsignor Chido starts out with a homily, and then we kind of get into a little discussion. And in your case, it was on Humana Vitae and the prophetic nature of that encyclical. And then to Theology of the Body, and we had Bill Donaghy from the Theology of the Body Institute in Pennsylvania and share about that. And we had Dr. Ray Garendi, who is just, he could be a stand-up comedian if you've never heard him. He's just hilarious. He's got a show on noon on Iowa Catholic Radio, the doctor is in. And he talked about children, and he's a psychologist, and talked about how right now especially we've instilled so much fear in our children, and how we can help our children to be fearless and godly children. And then we wrapped it up with Joe Stopulos, who also has a show on Iowa Catholic Radio, Man Up, to talk about St. Joseph as a model for men. And so we are going to be airing that during Lent.
Tremendous. So well, we're coming up on a break, Maggie. So, but we look for that, and kind of within the family, but reaching beyond, and humor always the leaven for that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back with Maggie DeWitte. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry, including the St. Sarah Club of Des Moines and the Sarah Club of Council Bluffs. Sarah is an apostolate of the Worldwide Catholic Church dedicated to fostering and supporting priesthood and religious vocations. Sarahans strive to accomplish their mission through prayer, fellowship, and service to the bishop, priests, sisters, and all in religious formation, and in doing so to increase their own holiness. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org. Thank you, Sarahans, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
St. Thomas Classical Academy is hosting a lecture Saturday, March 12th, starting at 7 p.m. Raising Catholic Men with Daniel Kerr, president and headmaster of St. Martin's Academy, a Catholic high school for boys that combines classical academics with an integrated work program on a sustainable farm in Fort Scott, Kansas. Raising Catholic Men, Saturday, March 12th at St. Thomas Classical Academy, 4801 Franklin Avenue, Des Moines. Learn more at stthomasclassical.org. That's stthomasclassical.org.
Welcome back. We are back with Maggie DeWitte, Executive Director of Pulse Life Advocates, formerly known as Iowans for Life.
Great to have you, Maggie. Thanks for staying. And, I was thinking as you talked about the Holy Family Project, how we're just, our young people are marinating in this culture. And I'm fortunate to be witnessing a wedding of a fine young couple who've, lived and done mission work and other things. And just ask him, and I always kind of a provocative way as we'll witness their wedding, well, why didn't you decide to live together? Why are you still, separate residence? It costs more, and then you don't get to check it out. And they were laughing at that, but they were also saying it's just remarkable the pressure they get, even from within their own family or from others who, Catholic in name, but maybe you're not standing with them in that. So I think anything that we can get and do to open minds and hearts. So that's a marvelous piece, and hopefully it'll find a receptive audience well beyond Iowa. Within the state, you're involved in the Coalition of Pro-Life Leaders, and I'm not familiar with all that's about. What's the work there?
Sure. So it's been, close to 4 years ago. Unfortunately, there were a lot of divisions in the pro-life movement in Iowa, and that's a national issue. People have different stances on how we tackle this huge issue, right? And different strategies and techniques, and sometimes they don't all get along, unfortunately. And So what happened a few years ago is some of the main groups in Iowa decided we really need to come together in unity and put aside our differences. There's, commonality. We've got common goals. We want to end abortion. We want to help families in Iowa. And let's focus on the things that we have in common and go forward in unity. And so that's exactly what we did. And we started to meet. And there's 7 organizations that meet on a regular basis, and specifically on legislative issues. And so we're tackling those legislative issues. We're coming together and we're saying, what are we going to, as a collective group, push this next session? And that has been the main group that's been leading the charge on the constitutional amendment. And there is strength in numbers, especially when you're going up to the Capitol. For them to see all of these groups coming together for one common purpose and all of our different networks giving the same message, there is a lot of power in that.
Marvelous, and not that kind of internecine battles and turf things, which really undermine the witness and, like you say, the impact that you're about. So may that continue to be, may the Spirit continue to, harmonize and bring together all that you're about. Some latter initiatives, we think about the media piece, pro-life apologetics. And you got a little support from the Catholic Foundation of Southwest Iowa. So I'm always pleased to hear that the mission of the foundation to enhance the work and the capacity of our Catholic institutions to realize their own goals and aims. But is that pro-life apologetics? Pretty much self-disclosive by the title, but what specifically?
Yeah, so we really want to equip people to talk about abortion because we as an organization can't do it all, and we need to equip everyone to be talking about this issue because that's really the only way we're going to change hearts and minds. And oftentimes people say, I don't know how to talk about that. I don't have the information. And so we put together the 20 most common arguments on abortion and concise answers to those common arguments. And
I would do well to use that concise answers. I could tone my responses up a little bit and not, expound too much. So I should check those out. So.
Yeah. So we did flashcards and then we did it in a video form. So we have it in both ways for people to kind of equip them on how to talk about this. And,
if Tom Quiner has his hand in this, I bet there's a little humor there, too, on some of this. But, so marvelous. And again, obviously abortion, but the whole spectrum of life and all that you're about. So, Maggie, thank you for being one of those staunch carriers of the torch in this way and for your work with young people.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. Thank you to our guests and all of our listeners in Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and wherever you may be listening on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.